Welcome, Thunder fans. I'm Nick Gallo from OKCThunder.com and Fox Sports Oklahoma. Despite some social separation, I am digitally alongside Chris Fisher, our play-by-play guy, and Michael Cage, our TV analyst. Guys, last time we were together was Wednesday, March 11th, when the Thunder and Utah Jazz almost had a game. It would have been an incredible matchup between the fourth and fifth seeds in the Western Conference. But as everybody knows, this COVID-19 situation has really thrown the league and the whole country and the world for a loop. And things are different for all of us. Things are different. Everyone's working from home. We're still working from home here at the Thunder. And we're going to try to give some content throughout the course of the season, what remains of the season. And we're going to start, though, by just looking back at that Wednesday, March 11th. And Chris, I want to get your perspective on, the NBA canceling that game when they did and what that was like in that moment.
Well, first of all, I never realized I could miss you guys as much as I do right now. I miss you guys so much. Every single day seeing you and being a part of what was a fun season. But I think that we're starting to realize and see the enormity of what took place on Wednesday. And with the groundswell of information that was flowing in at a really just unprecedented rate, I think that we all knew that something was looming, but how dramatic it was in the moment with head physician Donnie Traynor coming out and racing out onto the floor 10 seconds before this game was supposed to tip, literally. We knew that it was a big deal. We knew that it could potentially be corona related. And because that stuff just doesn't happen. You don't have somebody run out on the floor like that to try to prevent something. And as the discussions were continuing and seeing the players essentially wave to everybody in the crowd, I think I knew in the back of my head that was probably it. And they were going to cancel the game, and it had to have been corona-related. And the reality set in that as the words were coming out of my mouth and the shock of it all, that this was so big. And I don't think that we could have predicted it to happen in that way at all. But it did. And the reality is Oklahoma City became the epicenter of the sports world shutting down and this becoming what it needed to become in terms of the attention globally for all of us to take the appropriate steps to get to where we are now, which is working at home. So looking back on it, I'm still stunned that it happened that way, still shocked. And Oklahoma City was ground zero, and Michael and I were really the voice of that in it being the event that ultimately took the sports world down. So just remarkable stuff. And I think that the more that time goes on and the more that this all crystallizes, we realize how significant it really was.
As Chris is mentioning, this is happening right in the middle of our broadcast. I just gotten done with my opening hit. I'm sort of none the wiser to this conference that's happening on the court. Michael, in this situation, you and Chris are really being relied upon to be messengers of the truth. You're trying to figure out what's happening on the floor. Take us into that moment as you're trying to make sure you're not speculating, but you're also giving fans information that they need.
Well, first of all, the unprecedented moment was really the biggest issue that night. I mean, when it finally, we were ready, like I always do, get there, 90 minutes before the game. We do our due diligence. We prepare notes just like a normal day, and you show up. You're looking forward to this big game between the number 4 seed Utah Jazz and the number 5 seed Oklahoma City Thunder, who are separated by just one game. So I'm like going, let's go. This is great. This is we always say this will be like a playoff game in a regular season. That was my approach. I was really looking forward to it. And I think, you could feel the energy when you got to the arena that, look, this is great. We're having a wonderful season. This is the guys have worked so hard to get there and to put themselves in that position to be discussing, flip-flopping possibly with the Jazz tonight. That was my mindset. And then from the moment that the game was trying to start, because it never started, I'm looking at Chris. He's looking at me as a broadcaster, former player. I've been involved in the league this is my 34th year. You're never prepared for something like that. So when it happened, we went on air. We were like most our fans. We were like wanting to get you information, but you talk about real-time information. That was what was happening. And my mindset was this game is going to start eventually because it's never happened before. You just telling you that was the last thing on my mind, that game was not going to be played that night. Obviously, with all the things that I talked about, the excitement of what was at stake for both teams, but you realize that something was happening much bigger as we got into, on air. We were talking with our fans, and we were talking amongst each other about what the delay. We don't like to speculate. You brought that up, and I think that's terrific. I didn't know, so there was nothing really I wanted to speculate on other than pointing out what was happening. And as it turns out, the game wasn't played. Obviously, we learned that this was something much bigger than sports, and it eventually took over that game. So, and we just kind of rode with it and rode it out and gave you as much as we could. And it was really one of those situations where we were all just learning moment by moment.
Well, wisely, the NBA pressed pause on the NBA season at that point, but there's so much to look back on and celebrate about the Thunder season to that point. 40-24 after 64 games. Guys, 34-13 record after Thanksgiving. That's nearly a 60-win pace. And some crucial big-time performances right before then. Michael, what were your thoughts on the way that this Thunder team was playing heading into that Utah game?
Well, first of all, I think Shea, he was. I think about kids like him who was just now getting him back. He was supposed to. Remember the last game against Boston, he didn't play, so you kind of understood, what was really going, to happen, what was not going to happen, how the team, just all the energy of what they had worked so hard to get there. Because, when you think about it, the Thunder, all the minds, I came into the season very optimistic. Did I ever think that after 64 games, they would have the number 5 seed in the playoff standing with a chance to move down to 4? That was the kind of excitement I think we all rode on. As a former player, you saw all the 64 games. You go, man, this is for real. This is not like the bottom's going to fall out this week and all of a sudden, the glass slippers are going to slip off and we're going to come back down to earth. They never did. They kept working. They kept defending. They kept stayed together. And despite injuries, despite the change, 8 new faces in the roster, 8 returning faces, don't matter. And it just goes to show you where that was just a really what I call a perfect storm of guys believing in one another. And then, what the mantra that I heard most of all, guys, was they were having fun. So guess what? I had no other choice but to have fun too.
There was a lot of fun had in some huge W's over Houston, Denver, and Boston. Chris, the Thunder had won 8 out of 10 games before this hiatus. What were some of the performances as a unit that really stood out to you during that stretch, really from the last couple months?
Well, I go and want to piggyback on what Michael said a little bit. I mean, when you go and think about the last game that the Thunder played, it was against the Boston Celtics in what was my mind probably the best team performance of the year in the biggest win. It was just such a great team victory. And that's something that Chris Paul mentioned so many times in his post-game interviews, these team victories. And that one was emblematic as any. And there was so much momentum going into that big game, as Michael was saying on Wednesday, because it was going to be for the 4 seed. And we were looking – I know about you guys, but I was looking to go to work every single day. I wanted to be around this team. I wanted to be around the arena and these players because their energy and their performances, I think, was rubbing off on us. And there's not a lot of times where it just kind of hits a stride like that. And the energy that the team was giving us, I think everybody could kind of feel. And a lot of that came from the fact that they'd really started to come together in these big games, like you said, the comeback win at Houston, these OKC historic comebacks, the holding on to the victory in Chicago on the road. The most impressive thing to me was just how well this team played in these clutch moments with the game within under 5 minutes to go. I mean, they were expecting to win on a nightly basis. And we saw that in the results of these games. I mean, the Chicago game where they just came up with a defensive play when they needed it. They came up with a defensive play against Boston when they needed it. And 40-24, blowing by expectations. I don't know about you guys, but I was having a blast.
Well, there's 18 games left on the Thunder's regular season schedule. Guys, we have no idea whether those games will actually be played or not. There's so much up in the air right now, so much still being determined, conversations being had about if and when this season will continue. We know Thunder fans, you guys are starved for live sports, for basketball. We love to give you all content as much as we can on OKCThunder.com and our @OKCThunder social channels. But one big thing to look out for is that Fox Sports Oklahoma is going to be re-airing some of the very best games of the season. And the next one that you can look out for is on Monday night. It'll be Thunder versus Clippers from back in December. Chris, Michael, and I will have a preview for you, just kind of like this video, to kind of get you in the mood for that game and get you ready. Mike and Chris, anything you want to say to our Thunder fans before we sign off?
I mean, I think we're all looking forward to just getting a little something. What a great chance to go back and kind of see some great moments that you might have forgotten about because there had been so many. But since I can't be close to you guys, I've found some new friends, and I'm sticking to them. I got my Clorox wipes, I got my hand soap, and I got my hand sanitizer. These are my 3 best friends. Sorry, guys.
You are strapped and ready.
Come with me.
That's all right. You know what? I that's okay, Fish. You know what? That I have those things too, but I also have my best friend here, my coffee cup. I'm just chilling, man. So stay with us here. I'm just so happy that I'm able to re-engage with our fans and just, give you something that you probably won't see on the air, a little bit more about the games and kind of share some of our insights of some of the in-between the line stuff. So, hey, I'm looking forward to this. I hope you stay with us on this and, have your coffee and chill. We're good.
OKC faithful, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you on Monday.